Hello, and welcome to this episode of Rule of Carnage. This is a podcast, a series of videos, a set of conversations between myself, Glenn Ford, a games designer and developer, and Mike Hutchinson, my good friend, also a games designer and developer, where we
Hello.
talk about making better miniatures games. Now, making can mean many things. It can mean designing, imagining, creating, or it can mean physically producing an actual object. We were
Writing upon paper with crayons and distributing by hand.
ideally, yeah, that's the proper way of doing it. But
Yeah.
some of us wimp out and get other people to print them
Use
for
these
us.
electronic printers.
So we were talking in the last conversation about ways that small independent designers can achieve physical miniatures, get physical miniatures to the people that are playing their games.
It's exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, and the ways that you can do that cheaply and quickly. The other main part of the I don't know.
Miniatures game sandwich.
There you go. Yeah, sure.
The trifle that is miniature games.
Um, it tends to be the book. Tends to be
That's the bit that gets soggy if you pour custard on it at the bottom. Yeah, that's why it's the trifle.
that's the papery base of your game.
Exactly, yeah.
So yeah, look, physically making a book and getting it into the hands of another human being is a fairly sort of intimidating challenge. It's not necessarily obvious where you get someone to make a book for you. And it's sort of it's a concern as to how many you need and like what finishes you're gonna have and blah 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 blah.
Yeah, and what all the options are, and if they even tell you what the options are and everything.
Yeah. So hopefully we're gonna help you out with that because we've
All
done
right.
that kind of thing. Specifically, Mr. Mike, you have literally mere moments ago hit print on the run for Space Kits.
Yes, as I stand in this timeline, which is slightly different to the one that you're watching it in, because that's 3 or so weeks in the future. Yeah, just last week I made a very last minute quick update because somebody found that I'd missed out the damage stats for D4 damages, but we managed to sneak in a fix. I managed to get the Space Kits manuscript sent off to print, which is the first time that I've done like a proper grown-up actual book with actual binding, with actual like CMKY, multi thingied inks all over the place. Everything's going to be, oh God, it's going to be horrible and everything's going to leak everywhere. And all my white text is going to look furry because I haven't done the things that I don't know about. So that's the premium top end of the like, I want to make a rule book and I want it to be a glorious work of physical beauty, and Adonis in paperback form. But I have also over the last year or two indulged in the other two delivery methods, which are getting it printed locally and selling it to people as a zine. And I find like the word zine meaning it's probably less than 32 pages and it probably got printed in a copy shop. Like those are two things that I think are establishing of that genre. And then, of course, the wonderful world of print on demand, which we've both indulged in. Although even within print on demand, there's a couple of different sort of tiers and routes there that are worth chatting about.
Yeah, absolutely. So I
Should we
think
go hardest to easiest or easiest to hardest?
I mean, I don't know. Let's take hardest because that's the thing you have most recently
Right.
done. So, Space Kits, what is that? Like litho printing, offset?
Yes, it's some of those words. Yes. I don't know. This is the thing that like partly the journey of discovery here was getting some connections to print companies, and a couple of ways that I did that. One was Glenn will remember me walking around Dragon Meet one year, just bothering people who publish RPGs and just going, "Where do you get your books printed? Like, is that a company that I can just speak to?" And I got a bunch of names, and I just emailed them to sort of figure out who they were and whether they would pick up the phone if I called them. And then One of the things that Games Quest, who are my fulfillment partner for the Space Kits Kickstarter, one of the things that I asked them for is, can you connect me with some print companies that you've worked with, or rather that uh, you have been the receiver of product from, so that the people that your customers have worked with, if you see what I mean.
Mm.
Uh, and what that allowed me to do was gather sort of 5 or 6 quotes from different companies in Europe, in Britain, in China, to sort of get a book printed. And because I didn't know what I was doing, I did a couple things. One is I sort of said I didn't know what I was doing and asked them to sort of fill in the blanks of like what they expected that I wanted. And the other was to use benchmarks like, the Hobgoblin book or the Gaslands book, and sort of say, well, this is the sort of product I'm looking for. It's this size, it's this quality, it's this paper weight or whatever. So I didn't, and I still don't exactly know what it is that I want in technical terms, but I was able to point at something else and say, this is the sort of parameters that I'm looking for. Please match these. And that's how I got the quotes. And there's a whole journey of understanding how to create the final publishable file. I used Adobe InDesign, but other packages exist at various different price levels, which the fine people in the tools channel of our Discord are often sharing and debating the various merits of. I think that without going too deep into it, I think my journey with the Space Gits, getting Space Gits as a manuscript ready to the point where a like legitimate professional printing house could send it off to offset printing, was a journey of getting a Udemy, like an online learning course, video learning course for the areas that I was uncomfortable with. So I watched a course about designing for using InDesign for magazine layout, essentially, which taught me a lot about how to use InDesign. And then I watched some further videos about how to prepare things for specifically for offset printing, and like really cryptic things that you don't know until you realize you don't know them, like how on earth do you lay out the like hardback cover, how do you lay out the end papers, all this kind of garbage. It's all there on the internet, thank you, YouTube and sites like Udemy that have got courses. And the thing that I assumed was going to happen and turned out to be exactly what happened was I assumed that I would create a file, give it to the publisher, which was I ended up going with Standart Impressor, and that they would have some super knowledgeable person at the other end who would check my file to find out if it was hot garbage, and then would tell me the mistakes that I've made. And indeed, that did happen, and they were extremely communicative and really helpful with the specific feedback. So probably went round about 5 or 6 revisions, technical revisions, where like, you know, I sent it over and they said, you've used the wrong color profile. And so we fixed that. And they were like, well, you've got the right color profile, but now some of your ink is more than 330% ink levels. So go and YouTube that to figure out what the hell that means and how you fix it. And so things like that went around several times. And my experience was phenomenal with Standart Impressor because I knew just about enough to get by. They sent me a technical documentation that like had a bunch of specific information I needed to follow. I didn't completely understand all of it, but through researching that and sort of picking through, and then this process of like getting some feedback to them, it only took, I think, probably not even 10 days to go from the first thing that I submitted to the final thing that they sent for press. And it was fun. Like from my perspective, it was an enormously pleasurable learning experience, all the way back from like realizing that I was going to lay the book out in InDesign and starting to do, research into both InDesign, but also, reading layout books, reading textbooks about, grid layouts and some more graphic design fundamentals and filling myself in. So like the process of getting to the Space Kits rulebook, which I'm really proud of, and I'm excited to see what it looks like in full, professional print quality, was an enormous journey, and I spent an enormous amount of time. I'm not suggesting at any point that like there's a shortcut there. But like doing all that work was absolute pleasure. Like that was
Mm.
exactly what I was there for, and spending all that time learning those things. And now I'm feeling much more confident for the next book. And when I do a Space Kits expansion book, I'm going to know all these things that I didn't know the first time around, and I'm going to be able to do it faster and do it more accurately.
Yeah, yeah, and obviously there's a learning curve on things like making sure you've got a commercial license for the fonts that you're
Yep.
using, and going.
Or just very carefully choosing your fonts from those that there is plenty of wonderful fonts that you can use that just have an open license already.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. It's
yeah,
just
like
these are the sorts of things that you want to sort of track down. Like it's like so on my end, I happen to have no interest whatsoever in learning that particular
yeah.
sort of skill set. I hire a graphic designer, somebody who comes back saying, "Well, here are the four fonts that are closest match to the random thing you picked, and this one costs X amount of money, this one costs X amount of money, this one's free, blah blah blah."
Yeah.
So you can find people who will do that for you. Um, Again, this is sort of a willingness and interest in a thing and budget for achieving it, and different end finishes. Like boards and black flags, I intentionally want to be something closer to like an Osprey Blue Book end of thing, because that's
Hmm.
genuinely what I find, you know, I like. Um,
And so what do you mean by that? Do you mean in terms of like it's soft back, it's got relatively thick paper, it's kind of, somewhat glossy.
yeah, it's a soft back, shove it in your bag kind of a book that doesn't have a heavy amount of like graphic design within
Oh, I
it,
see. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
and so I've
It's
got.
not deliberately setting itself as a sort of art book or anything. It's quite jolly functional.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That is what and it's like I've got Pukeapocalypse, which is a full on art experience
Hmm.
of a book, and I just look at the sorts of books that I really enjoy and have really liked in the past, and they are the more sort of functional end of things, and that's kind of what I want to appeal to with Borders. So I was happy hiring a professional graphic designer typesetter who just knew what the pitfalls were and achieved a functional layout for me, and that was a route I went with it. And that like I say, it's about figuring out the things that are going to please you about your final product. I think that's the most important thing. And figuring out your budget, and you're being realistic about your skills, and the places you'll want to sort of slow down or speed up. So you're printing in Europe, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Lithuania.
Yeah, so I noticed sort of quite a few of the RPG books in Dragon Meat were printing in Europe, which is interesting. So it was saying obviously you still got China remains an option, but I guess that they're going to have pretty significant minimum order quantities. Obviously, Space Kits went over the 1,000 backers, so it's not really going to be a concern. But did the printer in Lithuania have a specific minimum order quantity? Do you know what it was?
I didn't test it particularly, but the 5 or 6 people that I spoke to, um, all of them, barring China, were more than happy to give me a quote for 500.
Okay, so that sort
So
of
that may be the minimum order, but I didn't test that.
yeah. I mean, so yeah, so those sorts of companies, and so obviously as you go down in your minimum order quantity, you're going to go up in your unit price.
Hmm.
But obviously, finding the money for 500 copies, 1,000 copies, is for some people a sort of luxury. Um, Equally, I guess, like those printers, you have more options for like spot varnish, UV varnish, embossing, foils,
You do,
that kind of stuff.
although like that feels to me like your second or third book where you like know what you're doing enough to even like engage with that. Like that's for me, like, I wanted to get all the way through with like a thing that the thing that was a book before I started getting fancy pants. You know, I look at something like you know, there's some very beautiful RPG books out there, and they've done some very clever things with the physical production, and it's clear to me that that's like very far from their first book, and they are now, you know,
Mm.
using their expertise to iterate on, you know, what looks cool. So
I
learning
guess
from that stuff definitely, but like I didn't want to want to screw the pooch with something that really didn't matter.
I guess again, and like as is often the case, I sort of I'm trying to lean towards like it's sort of it's about what tickles your personal pickle,
Yeah,
what you want
definitely.
to achieve with the
Well,
with
yeah, and it's also it's a brand question as well. Like you know, something like Space Weirdos, which you know we haven't talked about zines, but like something that presents itself as a zine, and you'd almost be like as pleased to print it off your home printer as you would to pick it up, you know, off a stand in a game convention. Like that's a brand decision as much as anything. Um, and because of the brand that it's created, like it doesn't have, you know, richly colored background pages. It doesn't have like detailed, you know, full color artwork that's going to look bad when you print it on a home printer. It's got a different vibe, and that's carried through the whole, you know,
yeah
from the text to the front cover to the every part of the layout, such that like, you know, doing an order of 3,000, you know, I'm sure he's sold many thousands of copies of Space Weirdos. Doing a print run in Eastern Europe for a, you know, for a softback or a hardback version of that doesn't fit the brand. It's not what
uh,
people are asking for. And but you've got a you know, you got a pricing concern there, which is if you want to make some money and you know you want to stick a good price on it, you want to give something, you want to find a way that people are going to be excited about paying that much money for something. And
yeah
it might be that it's part of a broader package. You know, we haven't talked about tokens and stuff, but like it could be that it's part of a broader package that contains more game components, or it could be that it's, you know, it's part of just being a beautiful book object itself. We were joking with some people at UK Games Expo who were looking at things like the beautiful Pukeapocalypse book and going like, this looks really fun. I'm not sure I'd have time to play it, and we were sort of joking that, well, you don't have to play every novel you read. Like it's fine to own books and then read the books.
no absolutely, and I think that's sort of what I'm leaning towards is like so for example when I did my game Moonflight, I really love magnet catch boxes, and the main reason that's got a magnet catch box is I wanted a magnet catch box for myself
Daddy wants a magnet catch.
that I made, and like, look, if you want, my point is, if you want your book to be in a slipcase and have a foil embossed cover, and that's the first thing you're designing, that's you can
It's
do
your
that.
money.
You
Do
can
it.
make that happen. But you're probably going to have to find a minimum order quantity of like 500 to do that, I suppose,
Mhm.
is the more important sort of lesson there. So moving on to like one of the other options, if you're not going to get to a minimum order quantity of 500, if you don't think you're necessarily going to get to a minimum order quantity of 100, print on demand,
Mm.
again, is something that is widely available, and is a very low sort of a zero entry level cost. You can find multiple companies online that will do it, and they do things at a very decent sort of quality at this point. You can get them
Yeah.
hardback, you can get them full color. So I think one of the main advantages of print on demand, and it's the main reason that I'm trying it out and seeing how it's going to work with Boars and Black Flags, is that by definition with print on demand, I can print in the US and the UK and the EU. I can very easily, get the order quantity to a point that's going to have a price that's going to make sense.
You
And
say by definition, but more specifically, you are selecting print on demand vendors who can, you're exploring print on demand vendors who can print in those different markets, right?
yeah, but so it's like I'm just saying, like, by definition, there are companies that exist, only in the US that are print on demand, and
Right.
there are ones that exist only in the UK, and the ones that exist only in the EU, and there are companies who exist in all of them and have different branches and different hubs.
Yeah.
Point is, like, if you're willing to hunt out different companies, you can save yourself issues with, EU sort of tax issues and safety marking regulations for where it's been produced and addresses. You can not never have to worry about tariffs existing because you're going to be printing literally in the location. You don't have to worry about shipping to Australia, a single book and the price, the exorbitant prices that that's then going to require and put somebody off of ever buying the thing. So like print on demand, other than its zero cost entry level, it's one copy minimum order quantity, has some very genuine advantages,
Definitely.
values to it and reasons to seriously consider it. The downside is, yeah, you're not going to be able to have a book with an embossed foil cover. You're not going to have UV spot finish on it. I don't think any print on demand company is going to be able to do those higher end finishes.
Well, and yeah, it is a digital printed object, so it is of a quality, but depending on how much you care, like it's going to look like a digital printed book. It's not going to look like a like an offset printed book. And the difference is subtle, and it matters to some people, and it doesn't matter to others.
Yeah, and
And
again,
it
it's
really the only person it matters to is you.
yeah, and again, it's like I say, there are certain sort of branding decisions and places where you want to place yourself in the marketplace.
Hmm.
If the thing that you are like looking to as the thing to match up to is an Osprey Blue book, and I think digital printing is going to be more than fine to match up to that sort of
I
quality
agree.
wise. If you are looking at something that just feels good when you pick the hardback cover, it's like the thing about Hobgoblin that I really like is it has a matte finish cover, hardback cover, and it just feels nice touching it
Yeah,
immediately.
Space Skit's going to have the same thing. I basically said to them, because Stand Up Impressor also made the Hobgoblin rulebook. I basically just said, look, all of these things, paperweight, the exact quality and finish of the cover, like all of this, please.
Yeah, I think matte. I'm just very into matte finish on stuff at the moment. I don't know what that's about, but yeah. So like again, this all
It's
depends.
like that weird nostalgia I had for a brief period of like gloss varnishing everything because it just made me feel nostalgic.
Cost vanishing miniatures.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
Look, yeah,
Yeah, I'm past that stage now, but there was a period.
again, and each of these stages is about the level that you can afford to print at, the upfront costs you can afford to invest, the branding that you're looking to achieve with the product, and the finish you're looking to achieve with the product. The again, my short point here is that if what you want is to get a physical book to a person who is interested in your game and you are a independent designer with no budget whatsoever,
Hmm.
you can achieve that.
Yeah, definitely.
That is totally achievable. We live in an age now where you can have a digitally printed minimum order quantity one book and sell it for a reasonable price for a softback book and make some money out of doing that.
So I guess I want to just mention briefly the copy shop option as well, because this I think is a fun option. It carries with it it basically depends what you're going to do with it. If you're going to mail it all around the world, then you reintroduce some issues. But like my experience is that copy shops these days will all do extremely high quality digital printing basically at the drop of a hat. And my experience here in Canterbury is that they also were super relaxed about the dodgy, like crummy, sort of misshapen files that I gave them. And they always just figured it out and sorted it out. Like I sent of the like 7 zines that I got printed at the back end of last year, like several of them had like A5 A4 covers with A5 stuff inside, and they just figured it out. Um, and that is an expensive route, like unit cost wise. In the couple of print runs that I did, I was sort of getting 50 printed, and then I was getting like 150 printed or whatever. And the unit cost is fairly high, but it's not prohibitive, and you can still sell them. It's a couple of quid for a smallish zine, and you can sell them for a couple quid more than that, and it makes it worth your time, and you don't necessarily have to drain down all your inventory to get back to profitability. But it was really, really delightful to have a box of physical zines to have and to be able to mail to people, be able to take to shows. And it just felt like getting off the ground in this really like direct and easy way, where I just popped down the road to the local town and got some books made. And it was like, psychologically, it was very low sort of risk, and the amount of money wasn't so much that I was super worried about it. And like the amount of like uncertainty, like with Space Kits, like there's a bunch of stuff happening that I can't see, and then I'm going to get a huge number of boxes of books back, and hopefully they'll be right. But I've heard horror stories from friends. But this was like, I could get them to do a box of 50, and then I could see what I was doing, and then I got like three more zines printed at similar levels. And you know it's not the most cost effective way to do it, but it is, I think, a really low cost and quite fun and immediate option.
I think also it, like, depending again on where you're placing yourself and what your process is and what your journey is. If you are intending to go to physical conventions to promote a game and you are intending to try and sell stuff on a stall, I think there's two things that zines, like shop printed zines, give you. Is, first of all, having a range of things on a stall is the secret to clearing your price when you go to a convention. It's the way that you get people to stop and get something out to everybody that stops by the stall, and that's the thing that tends to sort of mean that you're not spending money in order to go out and promote those things.
Hmm.
I think also, you know, if you are going out there physically to conventions in order to have people look at your stuff and stick your name in their mind and have them walk away with a product of yours, having a range of little zines that are easy for people to pick up, cheap for them to, make a commitment to, and then they've got something with your name on it and your website on it somewhere in their home. These are beneficial things for you. These are sort of calling cards. And also, if you're considering one of those higher sort of investment options, going and having a pile of like 20 copies of five different ideas that you're kicking around and seeing which of those piles goes down fastest is a very strong indicator of what thing to then invest X amount of money getting artwork made, commissioning SELs, blah 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 blah, looking for
Totally.
500 print run in Lithuania. So there are real advantages to like going at different stages and achieving different things, and learning at the different sort of levels.
Can I slide in one funny little option that I've used a few times and I think is really fun? Um, if you create a quick start version of your game, like a two-sided or a four-sided quick start version of your game, um, printing flyers through like just the mess of online like flyer production companies that exist out there. Like for us, it's like Instaprint and Vistaprint and whatever.
Mm.
Like you can get just like thousands of these things made for almost nothing. Like the costs are ridiculously low. Like you can pay, I don't know, 100 quid and get like 3,000 of these things made, and they arrive in a box, and then you've got so like I'm not necessarily like, you might have a 4-page game, and that's like a genuine way of like producing and distributing. But also it's just a fantastic way to create like a quick start, a marketing asset for you that is also your game. And so again, if you're trying to test out things that you might not be sure about, like you can drop a like really small amount of money on getting something colorful and nice to hold printed that you can give away for free, or charge $2 for or something in order to test the market and see if any of these things catch people's attention. So don't sleep on like cheap ass marketing like print companies as well, like that. I mean, you can even look at them for like brochure printing and stuff. I haven't yet, but I was during the zine period considering like looking at some of those options and trying to figure it out. But yeah, like folded flyers, uh, top tip.
Yeah, I want to think about doing a business card that is both a measuring device and a game. Give out
Nice.
to people.
Yeah.
So that's something to look for in the future. But yeah, look, again, as with the previous conversation about physically producing miniatures, I think the main thing I want to get across here is that you can make whoever you are watching this, if you've got a game that you're working on, you can make a physical copy of that game. You can have a book, even if it's just to put on your shelf. You can do it. You can achieve it. You have like literally all of the tools are available to you. There's a question of time versus money as to what you put into it, but it is doable. You can do it right now, and you can have it for yourself. And I guarantee you can sell it at a price that will make money, back for you. And this is without talking about things like the Amazon print on demand service, which will just sort of put it out for you once you produce the PDF with relatively little work and relatively little profit on your end. But there are so many options at this point. Again, we are, I think, living in an age where the entry level and the availability is unlike anything it has ever been previously for a small independent designer to have a physical product that is achievable and profitable and offerable anywhere in the world. So
Hell yeah.
those options are absolutely there, and I strongly suggest that you go out and investigate some of them and realize the opportunities that are available at this point and the things that you could genuinely achieve, if you want to.
And we haven't talked about digital distribution, but that's because this is a physical hobby. It's great to have things physically, but
Yes.
obviously,
And we
obviously
haven't
you can put them in all the places.
we haven't talked about accessories and MDFs and bits and pieces, but I've got a video hanging around somewhere where I talk about producing MDF stuff. I just haven't edited it together, so
I'd watch that. I don't know how
I
to do it.
I might well have to edit that together and get it out. But look, for now, swing down into the comments section. If you want to see a video with me explaining how I made some MDF terrain for boards and black flags, tell me that in the comments section. I might get off my arse and edit
But
it.
what about cardboard punch board? How do I do that?
Yes, I have many things to say about making cardboard punchboard terrain. Yeah, tell me if you want to see that video. Tell us if you physically produced a papery product based on a game that you made. Where did you go through it? Which of the processes did you use? What was it like? Have you sold it to other human beings, or is it in your study somewhere so that you can know that you made it and it is real? If you're down there in the comment section asking me for videos, reward me by giving me a like and subscribe with the button pushes that are in your power. Why not further reward us by checking out the links section, where there are probably links to one or another late pledge option on one or another game that we've recently kickstarted. There will certainly be links across to various places where you can buy our games at various locations, and there'll be links across to the Discord where you can swing by and chat to people who are working their way through various options for physically producing their games and putting them out into the world.
And
Um, and
that's a great place too to discuss like if you have had any experience like where were your good experiences and where were your bad experiences, and there are other people in the community that will be able to share that in a understanding and quiet independent game designer community.
Yeah, and while I am trashed here at a graphic design and layout, there are some people in there with obscene skills in such things that are more than happy to talk through the tricks and options and the ways of doing things, because it is
Hmm.
what certain people love to do, and they're happy to share their wisdom with you. Also, you can swing by our Patreons in the links section and give us direct support for the channel. But for now, I think from this episode and this Rule of Carnage, it's going to be thank you and goodbye. So thank you and goodbye. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.